At Lundin Mining, the health and safety of our employees and contractors is our top priority. We believe every injury is preventable, and we aim to provide our workforce with a safe, healthy, and productive work environment everywhere we operate. Yet every year, people are still getting hurt at work. Even worse, some are getting killed. To ensure everyone returns home safe every day, we need to shift our focus to controlling the risks associated with fatalities. That's where fatal risk management comes in. Fatal risk management, or FRM, focuses on 18 fatal risks that can kill us at work. These risks have been identified by analysis and evaluation of previous fatal incidents from across the mining industry. For each fatal risk, there is a set of critical controls designed to manage that risk in order to prevent serious injuries or death. FRM is the process of ensuring these critical controls are implemented before we start a job or task. If the controls are not in place, we stop the job until it's safe to start. So, what is a critical control? A critical control is an object or device, a technical system, or a direct human action that must be engaged to prevent or mitigate a potentially fatal incident. If a critical control is not in place, or if it fails, the potential for a fatality is greatly increased. Historically, our hazard identification and control process has relied on applying layered controls so that if one control failed, another would protect you from harm. Unfortunately, there have been far too many instances where this was not the case. That's why our focus must now turn to applying critical controls to ensure that the path to death is blocked. It's up to all of us to check these controls before we start work. Managers, supervisors, and operators all have a role to play in ensuring the effectiveness of critical controls in the field. Integrating these additional layers of protection into your daily work activities will ensure you and your colleagues go home safe. FRM starts with two new tools that must be carried with you at all times: an FRM hazard identification card and a critical controls guidebook. The FRM hazard identification card is similar to the pre-task hazard identification tool you're currently using at your operation, except it now has a focus on fatal risks. Whenever you enter your work area, use your FRM card to identify any fatal risks you're likely to encounter before beginning your job or task. Give yourself enough time to carry out a full analysis of your work, as some jobs may have more than one fatal risk. For example, if you're using a mobile crane to transport heavy material on surface, your fatal risks will be lifting operations, vehicle collision or rollover, and vehicle impact on person. After marking these risks on your FRM card, you now know specific critical controls must be in place before you can proceed with your work. That's where your critical controls guidebook comes in. Turning to the page for each of the fatal risks identified, you'll find a list of questions that reflect the critical controls that must be in place to prevent a fatality. For lifting operations, this means ensuring the creation of an exclusion zone, checking that the capacity of the lifting equipment is sufficient enough for the load, and completing the pre-operational inspection, among several other critical controls. Once you've verified a control is in place, simply place a check mark in the Yes box beside each control until you've verified all that apply to your task. However, if you answer no to any of the questions and the critical control cannot be verified, you must stop work immediately. This is called finding red and means that work can only begin if the relevant critical control can be put in place. For example, let's look at underground rockfall, one of the fatal risks you'll encounter working underground. Going through the list of critical controls in your guidebook, you reach the ground support section. Upon inspection, you notice that the ground support material you are installing shows evidence of weathering and corrosion. Because one of the critical controls is verification that the material being used is in good condition, you check the No box beside that control. Immediately stopping work, you know that you need to fix this potentially deadly situation. After locating proper ground support materials, you fix the situation and can now mark that specific critical control as verified in your book. You are now clear to continue working. But remember, if your task or conditions change, you must complete another hazard assessment to check for fatal risks and ensure that the critical controls are in place. However, if you were unable to come up with a safe solution, then you need to work with your supervisor to assess the situation and reschedule the task until the missing critical controls can be put in place. Unless all these criteria have been met, work must stop until the situation has been thoroughly assessed and there is no longer a credible risk of a fatality occurring. It's important to note that finding red on a verification is an opportunity for coaching, encouragement, and communication. If you received a verification interaction from a manager, supervisor, or other operator and they find a red, make sure you stop and listen, ask questions, and then make the change. Moving forward, we challenge everyone to contribute to FRM's success by shifting your focus to fatal risks and their associated critical controls. This means learning how to use the new tools and concepts, leading by example when performing work, and taking the initiative to help others on their journey as well. By acting together and committing to zero harm, we can all do our part to make Lundin Mining a fatality-free workplace and safer place to work.